A little flower for the helpers, and Gianni Bugno back on the high spot, and I must say this is quite a swing around for the Bucks. And zipping his top up, Pavel Tonkov stays in the overall lead as the race now moves on to stage 16. And as we take a quick look around the museum, the Olympic Museum in Lausanne in Switzerland, the riders now facing up to a ride away from Italy after their brief incursion and back out to a foreign country, Switzerland. The race route taking them 180 kilometres through Montreux, perhaps made more famous for its film festivals than anything else, and down into Lausanne. And the breakaway today, well, we're expecting breakaways that perhaps will not affect the overall classification for a couple of days, and this is an attack now by Alexander Gonchenkov, who's having probably his best ever season. He's lying 32nd overall in the event, more than 15 minutes behind the pink jersey here of Pavel Tonkov, and you can see his lead has gone up now to 4 minutes and 41 seconds, and it's a simple job for Paneria today, just to keep an eye on the way things are going. Also up there with Gonchenkov, Heinz Inbeden and Puttini, but he got rid of those two and is now coming up to the line here. And Alexander Gonchenkov, what a great season he is having. He started off so well with second in Tirreno Adriatico and second in Milan San Remo, 8th in the Tour of Flanders, 4th in the Amstel Gold Race, and now he's going to get a much well-deserved stage win in the Tour of Italy after almost 5 hours in the saddle today. The Roslotto rider, and he's quite a humorist on the circuit too, is Alexander Gonchenkov, and a very popular man. The Russians, many of them domiciled in Italy, are now anxious to show their colours to what they see as a home crowd. So in Lausanne, it's a Russian who celebrates the joint centenaries of the modern Olympiad and the promoting newspaper La Gazzetta della Sport. There he is, prepares to give the two-handed salute for Alexander Gonchenkov. The chase by Inbeden and Felice Puttini, and they never got on, and they finished around about 20 seconds behind. Another pink jersey, an unchallenged day for him too, Pavel Tonkov, now waiting for his rendezvous with the time trials and the mountains, as the race now moves on towards its finish in Baia on the 17th day of the Giro. And so the riders now preparing for their return yet again to Italy from Lausanne, having paid their respects to the modern Olympiad, and the route bringing through Martigny over 236 kilometres, the big climb of the San Bernard Pass, back through Aosta, where we were a couple of days ago, and down to the finish in Baia. There is the contour, nearly 2,000 metres high. The Grand San Bernard Pass has done absolutely nothing today to alter the course of the race. And Bo Larsen attacking after only 8 kilometres of the race, and Laurent Roux of France joining him, and the two have had a maximum lead of more than 26 minutes. I suppose that sometime in every big stage race you get the opportunities doing this. It's the sort of day that nobody, it seems, wants to attack the pink jersey of Pavel Tonkov. Little Laurent Roux is something of a climber, been a pro now for 2 seasons, and he's only ever won 3 races, but even so, that's 3 more than Bo Larsen, who turned professional on the basis of his fine 6th World Championship placing in Colombia last year. And Bo Larsen, one of a clutch of famous Danes, and they're all the famous Danish team of a couple of years ago that seemed to win around the world, everything they did, and I think every one of them now, Bo Larsen's the last one, they've all turned professional. Well, the breakaway is still many, many minutes ahead. The last time check we got, it was 17 minutes up, and as you can see now, we're only 2 kilometres from the finish, and I think a little bit of finessing is in order here. Laurent Roux has been pushed into the lead by Nikolai Bo Larsen. It's a shame when one of the riders have to lose at this stage, because they've been in the lead today for 228 kilometres by the time they cross the line. It's going to be a very difficult stage to win, because they've got all the time in the world they need to play out this one. There's nobody going to pick them up now. They've been in the lead for about 5 hours and 35 minutes of the time on the screen there. Bo Larsen wants the first win of his life, as a pro anyway, and he started the sprint now. And wouldn't it be any help to remind him now that he shares a flat with Glenn Magnussen, the only other rider on his team to win a stage of this year's Giro, the Amora Avita team. And I don't think little Laurent Roux has got any answer to the sprint here, but he's going to have a go. Laurent Roux is now digging very sharply on the right. He's lost it by inches in the end. He made that desperate attempt, and I'm not surprised. upset Laurent Roux there. He didn't quite get on to the level of Nikolai Bo Larsen. And Laurent Roux, perhaps a better climber than a sprinter, tries to get alongside Nikolai Bo Larsen at this, but there's a lot of power coming out of the red-haired Dane, and he gets his first ever race victory as a professional. It comes in the Tour of Italy. The sprint now for the third place, and this is Sergio Barbaro, who looks like he's going to take it out for Carrera. He's been sprinting very well, actually. And Marco Della Vedova, he gets fourth, and fifth is Amicare Tronca. And the remnants of the field coming in, all of the field. Look at the time on the clock here. You can see how seriously today Tonkov took the breakaway. 16.5 minutes, albeit, for the main field coming in. Tonkov not too far away from the front. There's confirmation of the stage result. Teteriuk was the rider there who got sixth from Kazakhstan. The overall situation, no change at all these past few days. Tonkov 20 seconds ahead of Ugrimov. Zaina is third. So the Giro d'Italia back home in Italy now. 5 stages to go. The big time trial tomorrow, followed by 2 tough mountain stages. A tough weekend ahead for Pavel Tonkov. 216 kilometres of flat roads today. These won't concern him at all. And it looks as though it's going to come down to another sprint finish as we come under the 1 kilometre to go barrier. And again, Mario Cipollini, who has come through the mountains so far and gone through France and Switzerland, is now going to try and get the stage. He's got himself a perfect position right again. This time he's up behind Giovanni Lombardi. He's gone round the back of the big balloon. But Mario Cipollini tucked in there now. He's still holding his fire. He's lying there in second place as he swings round into the home straight. The champion of Italy goes very wide. And it looks now as though he's going to have to kick. He makes it look almost casual, this, but the power in this man who pushes all of the strength right from his shoulders down into those long legs. And Lombardi is not going to get on terms with him at all, and neither is Casarotto or Skriniar. That's the order over the line. Is Cipollini, Lombardi. It was Zbigniew Spruk who got third, Guidi in fourth place, Casarotto. And they were all virtually in a straight line. Mario Cipollini gets his 4th stage win of this tour, and would you believe his 16th stage win in all of the Giros he's ridden. Overall, no change at all. There will be tomorrow because it's now the eve of the big time trial. And showdown time with the 62 kilometres individual time trial. Will it decide the Giro d'Italia? Starting from Vicenza, it goes through to Marostica. And it is a test starting on flat roads, but it builds up as the race progresses. And really, it should decide at least a solid order before the race goes into 2 very difficult days in the Dolomites before that final day down to the finish in Milan. This is the overall situation at the start this morning. Tonkov 20 seconds ahead of Ugrimov, 38 seconds back is Zaina, 44 seconds back is David Rebellin. We're looking now at the Bianchi bicycle here of Evgeny Berzin. An excellent time trialist, his memory going back to a couple of years ago when he beat Miguel Indurain and went on to win the Giro d'Italia, the first ever Russian to do that. He's going to have to fight back now from 8th place, a minute and 41 seconds down. A lot of time to make up to get himself back in the frame. Switching now to Gonchenkov here at the Czech of Braganza. He's gone through with the best time. Zenon Jaskula through there originally with the best time. The rider who once eliminated many riders in the Tour of Switzerland when he went on to win a mountain time trial there. This is the situation at 39 kilometres covered. Gonchenkov leading by a minute and 9 seconds. So his good form continues. Not so for Claudio Chiappucci. He's never been a man for the big time trials. His times recorded are showing he's not riding too quickly now, having started 2 minutes in front of Evgeny Berzin. And here is Berzin visibly moving quicker. And I think very shortly he's going to pick up Chiappucci into his sides because he's gaining big time on him. Taking the fastest way around the corners here, the Gavis rider. As we go back to the start house of Abraham Olano, the world champion, beaten only by Miguel Indurain to the time trial title almost a year ago, towards the end of last season in Colombia. He gets the start. Remember that Olano in 7th place overall and still 1 minute 20 seconds off Tonkov's pink jersey, and still the man everybody talks about as the favourite for this year's Giro. Berzin, Olano, two masters of the art against the watch, and they're going to run pretty close at the time checks at the moment. The little compact figure on the left there of Evgeny Berzin looks rather frail against the big stout frame of Abraham Olano. This is Pyotr Ugrimov, his turn to start. He starts 2 minutes in front of Pavel Tonkov. Must be a daunting feeling to know that the leader will be chasing you out of the start house in just 2 minutes' time as Ugrimov goes. A second and third in previous Giro d'Italias. The blue Bianchi frame and the disc wheels here of Evgeny Berzin, who settled into a great start. He is showing the best of the starts so far. Tonkov still to go, of course. And Tonkov has gone. So Tonkov rolls out of the start house. The applause of the crowd. The Russian leader of the Giro d'Italia. He knows now he's going to have to produce the ride of his life to keep that pink jersey. He said at the press conference yesterday all he wanted to do was a good enough time to keep the pink jersey and get back into the mountains where he has a better chance of defending it, I think. The world champion, this is where he must make his play. Olano has got to gain big time today to put himself in this race with the last weekend to come. Gonchenkov approaching the best time of Finko and gets the best time so far. So Gonchenkov is the trailblazer ahead of the field and continues his good tour. He's had one stage win so far. I might have had two if he hadn't had a flat tyre at one stage when he was in that breakaway with Fontanelli. Now this is Olano at Saucedo, the second time check, chasing the best time already through Evgeny Berzin in 26:29.8. Oh, and look at that, just 0.8 of a second of better for Abraham Olano. This is going to be quite a race now between Olano and Berzin. They're separated by only a few seconds on the overall classification, 14 to be precise, and virtually nothing in it at all between the world champion and Berzin. The course from now on, though, gets a little bit tougher. Here's the situation with still the top riders to go through. Olano, best time, 26 minutes, 29 seconds. Look at this. Caught for 2 minutes. Claudio Chiappucci are made to be looking as though he's slowing right down. Evgeny Berzin ploughs on. The long empty road ahead of him, and the same can be said for the race leader here. He is sweeping up today, starting last man out of the start house. And Pavel Tonkov not looking very good at all there. The time checks will reveal all very shortly, but he didn't look as though he was going too well. Because of the rules, no motorbike camera is allowed up on the rider's shoulders anymore, so we're going to have to take these pictures from the rear and imagine what the faces look like. Tonkov, 1 minute 16. That's an awful lot of time lost by Tonkov on the best time so far. You know, his pink jersey very much in danger to either Olano or Berzin. Advantage Olano at the moment. Here it is, Olano 26:29. Tonkov down there in only 8th place, 1 minute 16 seconds off the pace, and Olano starting today 1:27 behind Pavel Tonkov. Head-to-head battle between Berzin and Olano. They are locked together, these two riders. It is going to be a terrific finish to this time trial. Who was going to have the strength towards the end, because it's going to tell all of that. Pyotr Ugrimov coming through at the Czech of Braganza, chasing a lowly time here because he's going now. Ugrimov only through in 5th place. Berzin the best time to arrive here for the moment. So Ugrimov continues. We're looking at Evgeny Berzin here now as we move on to the 5th intermediate time check, and Berzin now setting new times there. So Berzin looks set now to arrive at the finish with the best time, but of course Olano and Ugrimov and Tonkov are all behind him on the course. This is Pavel Tonkov at Braganza, and the time is going to tell all here. He's racing against the 5th time of Ugrimov at this check. He comes through, he is 1:40 down on Berzin, so he's lost his overall lead if Olano confirms at Braganza, because the new leader on the road now is Abraham Olano, unless of course he's lost ground to Evgeny Berzin, and he hasn't. So the best man at the moment, Abraham Olano, the new leader of the Tour of Italy, as the head-to-head continues here. Look at this, 1:14.03 against 1:13.47 of Berzin. Olano is riding to the pink jersey in the Giro d'Italia at the moment. Taking a lot of risks on the way down there too, Abraham Olano, cutting off the corners. as Evgeny Berzin continues to ride himself back into a high place also in the Giro d'Italia. We could see Berzin, Olano, Tonkov, the men at the top of the leaderboard tonight. Berzin still finding plenty of speed in those little legs of his as he races down towards the finish now. Huge crowd here cheering on Berzin, the first ever Russian to win overall the Tour of Italy. He's chasing the time of Gonchenkov, and it's going to be desperately close. The quality ride of Gonchenkov is there for you to see, and now you see the new best time, 1:13.59 for Evgeny Berzin. That's the best time on the board. Abraham Olano has got to match that time. Preferably he's got to better it by about 14 seconds if he's any chance of taking the pink jersey, with Tonkov still to finish. And it's going to be very, very close indeed, but it's not going to be that much better than Berzin. It's not going to be a pink jersey for Olano at all. It could be for Berzin though. As he comes up to the finish, Olano is going to be 1.1 seconds slower, so Olano has been reversed by Berzin. He drops into second place. This is Ugrimov at the 5th checkpoint. His helmet has gone into the crowd, feeling the heat, as has that too of Pavel Tonkov at the Maglia Rosa of the Giro d'Italia. What a time trial this has turned out to be. There still could be a pink jersey awaiting Evgeny Berzin. It all will depend on the time now of Pavel Tonkov, but he does seem to be getting better as the race goes on. He certainly made a rough start and lost a lot of time, but he's now beginning to close in just a little bit. He may well save the day yet. Here's the time checks coming up. It'll be an interesting one. It must compare now with Evgeny Berzin. There's a rider going through who appears to have given up the ghost on the left of our picture there as Tonkov comes over the top. 1:31. It's still very desperate days for Tonkov because Berzin 1:41. His deficit overnight. It could be that Tonkov is going to save that jersey by a matter of seconds. The face of Pavel Tonkov. We finally get a little look at it there as our camera slips in alongside, rapidly pulls back to allow Tonkov to shoot at that left-hand corner. Here's the arrival now, Pyotr Ugrimov. He's also off the leaderboard now as he races towards the 5th time of Carlo Finko. A little bit of a sprint from the Latvian. It's not going to be a great ride from Pyotr Ugrimov. It's only going to be 6th place at the moment, and still Tonkov to come. The last man out on the course, Tonkov. Every pedal rev could be inching him just clear Evgeny Berzin. He could well be saving the overall lead. He certainly wasn't the way at half distance, but it might well be now. As he hits the line, 1:27 is the gap. Tonkov will keep his jersey, and by my reckoning, Olano will be very, very close, desperately close, and Berzin will be a few seconds behind Olano. That's the way I see it. And let's have a look. The result of the stage, Berzin gets it by a single second from Olano. Gonchenkov is 3rd. Tonkov is 4th at 1:27. And that ride by Pavel Tonkov, and did he suffer, has kept him in the pink jersey. There it is, a single second, because the times are rounded to the second. Olano is in second place, and Tonkov keeps his overall lead. And now he's got to do it all over again if he's going to run out the winner of the Giro d'Italia. The Passo-Poitevin is climbed twice here in the Dolomites, once midway through and once to the finishing line at the end of a ride of 220 kilometres. This is the sting in the tail that everybody has talked about, the first of 2 very, very vicious days indeed. The race starting from Bassano del Grappa, once the scene of the World Championships, and now it is racing all over the mountains of the Dolomites. And the big decisive climbs will be the 2,000 metre plus. There's 4 of them today, including that 2 climbs, as I say, of the Passo-Poitevin. And here, as we head towards it for the first time, perhaps predictably, Mariano Piccoli, the leader of the King of the Mountains, and indeed the defending champion, in this breakaway with Filippo Simeoni. And no immediate reaction from the field, because Piccoli is chasing the King of the Mountains points, while Simeoni, a second-year professional, is just trying to grab himself a little piece of glory on the Carrera team. Massive crowd here, all sensing today they could witness the kill, and as to exactly who will win the Giro d'Italia. Tonkov, remember, just protecting a single-second advantage over Abraham Olano, the world champion. This is Rodolfo Massi here, who's trying to get across to Piccoli and Simeoni on the climb of the Poitevin. under what is the kilometre banner, and it will certainly be that next time around. But this time it's just a kilometre for them to the summit, and then they go on, descend to the Marmolada, and then climb back over this pass to the finishing line. Still 68 kilometres to go. Piccoli has been a very strong and decisive leader in the King of the Mountains. He was a good winner last year, and now he looks set to gather enough points to be the winner this time around as well. Up to the summit of the climb, the clock gets ready. No reaction from Simeone. He's going to allow Piccoli, who's made all of the running up the climb, to get the win, followed by himself. And now it looks as though Massi is hanging on to third place. He's clear of the field. And this is the remnants of the field, a very select group indeed. Gianni Bugno, who lost so much time early on, sitting third wheel now, as the Paneria team have to do all of the work to try and keep the race in touch. They're more concerned with the content of that chase group, which does include Berzin and indeed Olano and Ugramov, so the danger men, the men most dangerous to Pavel Tonkov, are still alongside him. But one climb of the big pass is over. Now on the way down, and it looks as though Massi is going to make contact very shortly with the two leaders, Piccoli and Simeone. Makes an interesting three-man breakaway, the combination which could survive here. Vladimir Belli of Paneria is such a strong teammate of Tonkov, setting the pace. Aina comes through in second place. He's a bit of a surprise in this race. Then comes the pink jersey by just 1 single second, Pavel Tonkov, and the man who's haunting him now right on his wheel there, Abraham Olano. An attack going up the inside there. Looks like the rider attacking is Brasiliat Fausto Dotti. A reaction coming, I think, from Beat Ziberg of Switzerland. They're on the lower slopes. And meanwhile, the three leaders together here now, assessing the situation. Working well together. Massi is having an inspired tour here, the stage win already. He's been a pro for 9 years, don't forget. Join the leaders on a day when he might feel that the infighting will all be reenacted behind, as Tonkov tries to contain Olano. Still heading towards the climb of the Marmolada. Long downhill run now before they only have to climb back up to the summit next time around. There'll be no more downhill. Here's a glance at the field, and I don't see any of the stars missing. Evgeny Berzin looking pretty relaxed. And he's just having a little chat with his teammate there. Bruno Kengialta, a strong man when you need him. But it looks as though this group has lost a little bit of its impetus here on the climb of the Marmolada, and in fact are being caught and drawn in very, very quickly indeed. There is Dotti, who was away, but he's now back at the head of the field. Number 33 there is Beat Ziberg, so they've both been picked up. This is the advanced scout group, and this is the pink jersey group here. Ivan Gotti also here. And none of the real favourites missing from this select climbing group. You wouldn't get anything out of the face here of Piotr Ugramov, who looks across at Abraham Olano, the champion of the road race. What a great title that was to win with a flat tyre, let's not forget. Miguel Indurain taking second place, and Spain at last getting a world road racing champion. But the field has caught up and is swelling all of the time now. Piccoli in that green jersey drops down a little bit. It looks as though we've got another attack here coming from Dotti. Just testing the water once again. It was his attack that really caused the crumbling of that breakaway of Piccoli, Simeone and Massi. And they're not really ready to fight again yet, are they? Vladimir Belli setting the pace for Paneria. His job is simple today. Go as fast as you can for as long as you can, and then hope that Pavel Tonkov can keep his jersey. That 1 second margin is not much, is it? And this is Beat Ziberg, who's again caught up with Dotti for the second time today, and this time he's not going to wait for him. He's sprinted straight past Fausto Dotti and left him, and he's gone out on a lone sortie here. Now this is a good move by the Carrera team, because remember, they have Enrico Zaina still in a high overall position in this league group, and now it's down to the others to chase Beat Ziberg. Paneria, no immediate reaction. Here's Piccoli again trying to nibble away at the front, and again the pack are coming back onto him. So the King of the Mountains, all he wants is the points at the summit. He's quite happy to wait for the pack, but they're not letting him go this time. And this looks like a rather cracked Fausto Dotti. The legs have gone as he looks up the road and sees Vinse, who won the Grand Prix Frankfurt this year, his first big classic victory in Germany. A very good climber, and if he gets away and settles in, he might well climb over the top of the Marmolada and then on to the Pordoi for the finish. But the breakaways have all been spread asunder now. Still Panaria remain in charge. Pavel Tonkov, who's always had a high finish in all of the tours he's ridden here. Now 27 years of age, been a professional for, this will be his 5th season. And one of the stunning views here in the Dolomites of how they build these roads in Italy, I'll never know. The gap is up to 50 seconds from the first group, which contains the pink jersey. Vinse now heads gently towards the top of the Marmolada, and then the descent, and then the climb up to the top of the Pordoi and the finish. And the group is absolutely shattering now. Just tagging on to the back here of the pink jerseys, Abraham Olano, that second, looking a little bit fragile for him even, as Ugramov also starts to increase the pace. On the far side, it's Zaina. So Pavel Tonkov, perhaps the advantage, you know, has swung back to the Russian rider. Now we're away from the time trial, because that's the first time I've noted Abraham Olano actually suffering on the climbs during this Giro. Here's Zaina sitting at the front of the group. One of the real finds of this year's Giro, and a good replacement for the absent Marco Pantani. Ugramov, now into his 30s and still riding like a very young man, in second place. Tonkov, without the Panaria team around him now, they've been blown out on this climb. It's quite a tough climb, the Marmolada, by the way. It certainly isn't an easy stepping stone to the finish climb of the Pordoi, and it looks as though Evgeny Berzin also is not feeling too hot after his great time trial. That's Gotti tagged on to a suffering Olano. And there's still a long way to go up this climb. Tonkov looks a lot better than Olano does. So we've got Zaina, Ugramov, Tonkov, and then Olano gone, and losing ground, Evgeny Berzin. And they're still trying to hunt down Vinse up front, but they won't be worried too much about him at the minute. There he is down there. And it looks as though Olano, his World Championship jersey, unzipped all of the way down, has cracked. Olano losing ground. If Tonkov looked over his shoulder now, he would take a lot of solace in that, because Olano, the man who was the favourite, especially after that great time trial yesterday, looks to be in serious trouble now, and this is not the finishing climb. So there's a lot of big time could be gained by Tonkov here. And Tonkov now should turn his attention probably to Enrico Zaina, because he's the next danger man on the books, because all of the others seem to have dropped away from the overall classification. Olano was 1 second behind, now he's about 6 overall. Berzin, who was 14 seconds behind at the start of the day, he's even further back behind Olano. Ugramov is still in that group with Tonkov. He started though 1 minute 58 seconds behind Pavel Tonkov. Here's Berzin. And Berzin, in fact, looks to be in a little bit of trouble even in that group. So a study in concentration here of Pavel Tonkov, as Ugramov rides well, but the man who is dishing out all of the pain here is Enrico Zaina. Tonkov comes over the top of Ugramov as Ugramov looked at him with quite a grimace on his face. I think that Ugramov may have cracked here. He's lost the ground. He seemed to be going so well just a few seconds ago. There was an acceleration by Zaina. Tonkov spotted it, jumped it, and has now put Ugramov in all sorts of trouble. But not as much trouble as the World Road Race champion, Abraham Olano. He looks to be finding a little bit of a rhythm here, but there's nobody left around him to help now. He's got a lonely trail to plough by himself. Enrico Zaino tapping out the rhythm as he has done since the start of the climb of the Marmolada, and Tonkov just hanging on there and hoping. This is Ugramov, and Ugramov still falling back here because that's Ivan Gotti who's come through. And an acceleration now further up the climb by Zaina. What a recovery this is by this rider. A mediocre time trial yesterday, but he's gaining big time now over everybody today. So if you can't ride a time trial, you have to fly in the mountains. And he's got another tough day to come tomorrow as well. The pink jersey now has been dispatched backwards. This is superb cycling by Enrico Zaina. As we climb steadily now towards the finish, he has put the pink jersey in serious trouble. But Tonkov knows if he can limit his losses to just this one man, he will keep that pink jersey tonight. Enrico Zaina for Carrera. And one would have to wonder quite what Pantani would have done on similar slopes here had he had his usual form in the mountains. Instead, we're having to watch his teammate Zaina, and he's doing a pretty good job of it, isn't he? Continues to look very, very frisky at the front, inspired by the fact that he's heading towards his second stage victory in this year's Giro d'Italia, far and away his best ever tour. But watching the battle behind as riders are beginning to crack. Rider number 66 is Ivan Gotti. He's having an inspired climb now. He's come right up to the back wheel of Pavel Tonkov. Tonkov may have gritted his teeth and hung on, and now the elastic has snapped. He may have blown. Gotti going by him. It's a long, long climb to the finish on the Podoi, and Ivan Gotti is not going to rush at it. He's got up alongside Pavel Tonkov. Tonkov looks across to the left to see if he can spot anybody coming. He'll take a lot of confidence from the fact that Olano is nowhere in sight now. And Ugrimov, well, he's found his second wind here. He's coming right up behind Tonkov and Gotti. And that takes a lot of doing. But there aren't many tougher cyclists in Piotr Ugrimov. He's had his great battles in the Tour of Italy in the past, especially with Miguel Indurain. Almost run him to the victory too a couple of years ago. He was less than a minute behind him when the final analysis was made. And on this little bit of the flatter slopes here, he's coming across to the leaders. Meanwhile, further down the slopes, the pain here on only Moto 3 of the World Road Race champion, Abraham Olano, who has been joined now by Stefano Faustini from the Anche team. Another man who has featured throughout this 3-week race and will still be consolidating a top 10 overall position if he can hang on to the world champion. But it seems nobody can hang on to Zaina. Continues to climb with tremendous confidence. And Faustini, in fact, he's just come up and has now been dropped by a very steady piece of riding here from Olano. Experience telling perhaps when he knew he was making the effort just a little bit over his limit, he dropped back. Now he's found his rhythm again and continues to climb reasonably well. This is Gotti. First came to our notice a year ago in the Tour de France, where he snatched the race lead for a day. You may remember that the referees then split the bunch timing at the finish, and the jersey went across to Bjarne Riis, his Danish teammate. Riis not here and preparing for the Tour de France, where he'll take on Miguel Indurain, of course, who is also not here. They say you can't win both the Tour of Italy and the Tour de France anymore. You have to make the choice, and that in many ways is a shame for the Giro d'Italia because it leaves out some of the big names. But you can't complain about the competition because Enrico Zaina has ridden superbly today. And Ugrimov continues to set the tempo. And it looks to me as though, in fact, Abraham Olano is beginning to climb back into the picture here. He took a packet at the start of the climb, but he is closing in. And that's terrific show of determination from the world champion. Zaina is still climbing clearly to a stage victory. But look at this now. Olano has come back to the side of Pavel Tonkov. The 1 second gap once more exists. Tonkov is in all sorts of trouble here. His rhythm has gone. Ugrimov, who climbed back into the picture, has gone past Pavel Tonkov. And now I wonder now if Abraham Olano will get up alongside Tonkov and let him see he's arrived. The Basque flag flying on the left of our picture, and they all wanted to catch a glimpse of Abraham Olano, and now he's going to kick and kick hard so Tonkov can't react. Tonkov is trying to react. He probably can only think of 1 second as he digs very, very deep indeed, but he's going to, if he does win the Tour of Italy now, he's going to be a true champion. He had to fight back in the time trial to save that jersey by a second, and now when things seemingly were going so well, he's having to fight back again to hang on to Abraham Olano. But it could well be that the pink jersey denied Olano yesterday by that 1 second will be his today, but first he's got to get rid of the pink jersey of Tonkov. But the acceleration by Olano is taking him back up to Ugrimov. Look at the face of Ugrimov here, just ahead of him, and he's seen him, Ivan Gotti. Well, this has been a tough climb up the Marmolada, but Zaina has been the man to go over the top in first place. We're now seeing the chase behind. Gotti has gone over, followed by Ugrimov. We're on the descent. You're no sooner down than you're on the climb again, next time of the Podoi, and that will take them to the finish. What a vicious day this has been in the Dolomites. The whole 2 weeks of racing now proving to be just shadow boxing. The time trial opened up the gaps, or in the case of Olano and Tonkov, it didn't, and now it's a matter of opening up the gaps yet again here in the Dolomites. 20 kilometres to go. At least we've got a little bit of downhill first. Some 12 miles to the finish. Well, the depth that these professionals have gone to here to show their true depths of courage, because they've all taken a bad ride except this rider, Zaina, on the climb of the Marmolada, and they've all had to fight back. A real showdown indeed. And they've come back together. Gotti at the rear, followed in front of him by the Roslotto rider Ugrimov, then Tonkov of Panaria, and being led, of course, by the world champion Abraham Olano, heading into the town before we start the climb up to the finish. Olano looks a little bit more settled to me now. What a difference one mountain makes, because it's probably Tonkov now who is a little bit worried about the climb ahead. These four riders, having left behind them a shattered main field, the pink jersey, the world champion, a Latvian and an Italian. And it's the Latvian, the oldest man in the group, who is setting the pace. Tonkov trying now, I think, to demonstrate to Olano that he's not really tired at all by riding in front of him. Ivan Gotti, the rider to watch, he's nothing to gain at the moment, although he's reasonably well up overall, but he's the man. He knows he's no need to involve himself with the infight that exists between Olano and Tonkov, and he might take an advantage from that later. The gap now up to 1 minute for Enrico Zaina. He's never put a wheel wrong, has he? He's climbed so well on the Marmolada, and now we're on the Podoi, and it looks like he's climbing to overall victory. There's his deficit, 4 minutes 9 seconds behind overnight, in 8th place to Tonkov. That makes him 4 minutes 10 seconds to Olano. He's pulling back a minute of that at the moment, so he's climbing up the overall classification. And it looks as though Gotti may well have slipped the other two here, the other three rather, and this is Bugno. He's come from absolutely nowhere. Gianni Bugno has crossed the gap to the leaders from absolutely nowhere. Well, that's an inspired day for the champion of Italy, the man who lost 11 minutes very early on in the opening week of this year's Giro, has now found himself on an inspired ride today. The champion of Italy has joined the leaders. And not only has he joined them, but he's going. And I don't think there can be much of a reaction here, because they know he's so far behind overall. They're not going to chase him down and risk another rider jumping them when they do it. And so, well, having said that, in fact, Ugrimov has climbed back up to Bugno without really doing much about it. I think Bugno must have slowed down there. Ugrimov, Olano, Tonkov and Gianni Bugno takes fourth wheel. Gotti is the man who slipped them, and I don't know if Bugno will know about that, because he wasn't in that group when he came up to join Olano. And Gotti is closing in on Zaina. It's down to 49 seconds, but the gap over the others is opening up, and almost a minute and a half now the advantage for Zaina. He's climbing up the overall classification in leaps and bounds here, and there's still a long way to go up this climb. This beautiful mountain range, the Dolomites in Italy, providing a great battleground today. He really doesn't look in any trouble, does he, Zaina? This is Olano now, trying again to test Tonkov. He only needs a second, And then providing he stays within range of Zaina, he'll get the pink jersey. And at the most crucial stage of the event, just 2 more days to go. But again, Ugramov, this man just will not give up. He is such a hard man, grits his teeth and powers his way back to the wheel of the world champion. Tonkov, I think, by my opinion here, is just praying for the end of this stage now. He is hanging. And Bunyo, who attacked, has been brought back yet again. Twice the world champion, twice a winner of the famous mountain stage in the Tour de France at Alpe d'Huez, by the way. Only 2 other Italians have ever done that. The very first one in 1952 was the late and great Fausto Coppi, and the other one was Roberto Conti, who after riding a career of 10 years, that was his first ever road race victory. But back with the Tour of Italy, and the man who is making his name today, no, not Marco Pantani of Carrera, but Enrico Zaina, now only 3 kilometres from the finish. I'm not surprised the Carrera team here don't believe they're having such a day. The great battle that should have been between Olano and between Tonkov and Berzin, and it's not that way at all. It is Zaina now who's getting all the Italian cheers on the climb as they look down and see him coming up towards the summit. If anything, he's going quicker and quicker, despite the apparent fitness of the spectators. And there's an attack on at the front. Olano trying once again just to shake his tail. He wants to get rid just that 1 second, and he will get the pink jersey because the gaps aren't big enough to Zaina. But look at this. Tonkov is a limpet. He's locked himself onto the back wheel of the world champion. He refuses to be dislodged. And all this happening as we go under 1 kilometre to go now for Enrico Zaina. He's going to get the stage win for sure, but at what time gaps over the rest, and that will be crucial. Gotti is still chasing him, although we haven't seen anything of him. Our cameras seem to be spread all over the mountains as well today. And not too happy with the closeness of the Tifosi as Zaina heads up towards the finish. And they're just about jumping back here as he blasts his way through the tunnel, and this will be a first for Enrico Zaina, leading a stage of the Giro d'Italia up to a mountain top finish. And there's not much further to go now. He just makes sure, as all good pros do, that nobody is sneaking up. In this case it will be Ivan Gotti, but no sign of Gotti as Enrico Zaina of Carrera probably will dedicate the stage to Marco Pantani, the rider who should have been here, of course, and was kept out of the sport this season by that terrible crash when he was hit by a car at the end of last season in a race. And just look at this, over 7 hours today in the Dolomites, a massive day of mountain climbing, and the man who has been inspired throughout it, Enrico Zaina, gets his 2nd stage win of the Giro d'Italia. And the clock now will tell us shortly how long he's got to wait and how high he will climb over the others in this race. I don't think he'll do enough to climb over the actual leaders. Gotti comes in 47 seconds down. Still, we've got that crucial sprint. Remember, only 1 second between Olano and Tonkov. Tonkov has got to hang on to the wheel of Olano, and I'm not sure he can. As Bunyo gets 3rd, there is a gap there, a very definite gap. Olano will take 4th place, and I think there's a second there. They'll give a second back to Tonkov, and if it goes to the same time, I think they'll award the pink jersey to Olano because of the better time trial. This is Evgeny Berzin. He is the big loser today, isn't he? 4.5 minutes and counting. He has conceded. His Giro d'Italia has gone out of the window. And this is the rider who caused the big time gaps, Enrico Zaina, the sweat clearly dripping off his face as he comes up to the line to get his 2nd stage win of this year's Giro d'Italia. There's the result. Gotti comes in at 47. Bunyo, Olano and Tonkov was given a time difference. He is given 2nd place overall, the same time as Abraham Olano. Zaina is up into 3rd place. What a race this is turning out to be. Denied yesterday the pink jersey, the world champion gets it today. And by the way, he was given the victory, or the lead rather, by 46 hundredths of a second. That was the official time gap. The final day in the Dolomites, the Saturday, the penultimate day of the race, the longest one as well. 250 kilometres now, taking the rise from Cavallese on a tour of the Dolomites, and there are some brutes here. 4 of them are topping the list of all of the climbers today. The race will finish down in Aprica, and there's a little rundown on the profile. The biggest of the climbs is the Passo di Gavia, but watch out for the Mortarolo, which is a brute of 13 kilometres. We join the race here on the Passo di Gavia, and alone in the lead is the Colombian climber Hernan Buenajora, and he was the rider who took 10th place in the Tour de France last year. A gifted climber indeed, being chased all the way up here, Nelson Rodriguez, and the rider in yellow, Stefano Faustini. They're not too far behind Buenajora. They should get together on the descent, and there's a revitalised Gianni Bugno. While the Mappe boys pick up the newspapers, not to read of course, but to push up the jumpers, ready for the descent and that cold wind. Ugramov takes a little bit of reading material as well. The way down off the Gavia. Cautious descent this by the Colombian. Certainly not a man in a hurry. He's taken the King of the Mountains points, but Piccoli already well clear in that competition. There's Berzin, third in line of the group, the pink jersey of Abraham Olano, sitting off the back of this big group. The scenery today undoubtedly is stunning, but his concentration must not be relinquished at all, because on these descents, which are very, very dangerous in the Dolomites, as you can see, you have to keep your full wits about you. Buenajora still leading down here. Rodriguez sitting at the back, the little man who once beat Pyotr Ugramov in the Alps to a stage win in the Tour de France after sitting on Ugramov all the way to the line. He outsprinted him. Rodolfo Massi trapped in between this group and trying to get across, as he was the other day. And he might well get across, because the main field behind are concentrating on the in-house battle for the final destination of the Maglia Rosa. It should be decided today for the final ride into the finish tomorrow. There is Massi, 30 seconds down. The group containing Abraham Olano and Tonkov is at almost 2 minutes at the moment. And Massi back up now with the leaders, so we've got 4 of them: Buenajora, Faustini, Rodriguez and Massi. Well, any one of these rides, looks though Massi there is a little bit worn out after the chase. He's had one stage win and has put in some good rides in the mountains this last couple of days. Latched onto the back, with just 44 kilometres to go of this long stage, but now we're beginning the climb of the Mortarolo. This is without doubt the steepest climb in this year's Giro d'Italia, with slopes of 1 in 5, some 20% gradients. It goes up for 13 kilometres, and Ugramov is the first to start trying to break up this elite group. Ivan Gotti also setting the pace, Ugramov just behind him. Then Zaina, what can you say about him? He continues to look good. Pavel Tonkov, not the one in the pink jersey anymore, but the one in the pink of Paneria. And it looked to me as though Olano was in a bit of trouble at the back there, and he was. Abraham Olano has lost ground here, and we're only on the start of this long climb, and if Tonkov cares to look over his shoulder, he could hurt him more. It was the acceleration of Ivan Gotti that put him in trouble. This looks as though Rodriguez being picked up now by the group. Ugramov, Zaina, and Rodriguez making no effort at all to latch on the back. He's going to very shortly be passed then by Abraham Olano, who is losing ground rapidly. They're all coming back now. Massi is also coming back. So Faustini and Buenajora are still just in front. Olano climbs past Nelson Rodriguez, who has no more fight left in him. The same may not be said of the pink jersey. Equal on time with Tonkov, so now he's down in the second place in this year's Giro. What a marvellous tailpiece this has been. Here are the other 2 attackers of the day, Buenajora and Faustini, being picked up now by a group inspired by the loss of Abraham Olano. And it was a long stare back there by Buenajora, and he was probably looking to see if the pink jersey was present, and he was certainly not. 27 seconds the gap now to Tonkov and Olano. That's enough to win this year's Giro for him. But he must watch out now for the resurgence of Zaina, who with a good ride today could well move up into the overall lead. There he is on the left of our picture. Ugramov has had an excellent race, always been in the action when it matters. Perhaps the final killer strength leaving him a little bit as he gets older. Tonkov, of course, the same can't be said of this man, who's now coming very much into his own, having had a love affair with the Giro d'Italia for a number of years. Gotti too, never having yet won a race as a professional, but he climbed up there into second place yesterday. He's going to be in at the kill again, it seems, today, as he starts the attacks once more. Gets rid of the breakaways who just came back to him. Tonkov certainly knows the wheel to follow. Jumped immediately into the strip sleeve here of Gotti. Gotti looks over his shoulder just to see if Tonkov wants to come through and do any work, and I don't think he can at the minute. What a nice feeling it must be though for Tonkov, knowing he is pulling away from Abraham Olano. The Spanish rider seems to have cracked wholesalely on the climb. Zaina may be in a little bit of trouble too here as he rides alongside Ugrimov. A massive crowd again on the Mortirolo to watch the riders touring the Dolomites. And this will probably be remembered as one of the hardest stages in recent years in the Giro d'Italia. Two riders in front. The man trying to recover the pink jersey he's held for a lot of this year's tour. Ivan Gotti trying to win a stage at last, having taken second place yesterday. Gotti turned pro back in 1991, by the way. 30 seconds, but more importantly, it's a minute 10 now. 1 minute 40 rather, between Tonkov and Gotti and Olano, and that's more than enough for the pink jersey to return to the shoulders of the Russian. Ivan Gotti content to ride at the front, and very often that's the way with climbers. And look at this, a salute to the crowd here from Tonkov. At least I think it was a salute, but he's certainly emphasizing the fact that he is now clear of Abraham. I think he was waving at the Spanish supporters there to saying, I've dropped him and it's going to be my tour now, as they go over the top of the Mortirolo. Gotti wants the crowd out of his way so he can see the descent. 35 seconds pass by. Ugrimov comes over with Zaina. No sign yet of Abraham Olano. It's going to be over a minute, I think. The descent of the Mortirolo has begun. And what a great feeling it must be for Tonkov now in company with Ivan Gotti. Surely if he gets to the finish, Tonkov is not going to deny Gotti his first ever win as a pro bike rider. 2 minutes and 22 seconds. The cheers and the waves are a little bit meek there for the world champion Abraham Olano, because surely now he has lost the Giro d'Italia. And Gotti taking no chances on the descent as Tonkov gets control of the reins. Just on 50 kilometers an hour, around about 30 miles an hour for the way down. There's no real hills left in this year's Giro d'Italia now. It's a slightly uphill finish. The Gay Wiz teammates, Berzin, the big loser again, almost 10 minutes down at the top of the Mortirolo for Berzin. So after yesterday's blowout, clearly today he's decided to call it quits. The pink jersey of Abraham Olano, well, he would have to take some extreme risk on the descent now, dangerous as they are, if he was going to put himself back in contention. But I really believe he knows now he's lost this year's Giro d'Italia. Second in the Tour of Spain. A high finish, but not the winning position, is going to have to be his lot this time around in the Tour of Italy. Back up with the two leaders, and still Gotti dangles off the back of Tonkov. They've got 47 seconds over the Zaina-Ugrimov tandem. So they're more or less locked at the same time gap. Gotti not clearly the careless descender of Tonkov, having to make up ground when the road permits. This is the other two behind at round about 47 seconds. And Zaina doing himself no disservice at all here by this another great escape, because he is going to continue his ascent up the overall classification. He's gaining time on Olano. Ugrimov is already behind him overall. He'll have to watch out for the escape of Gotti, but you know, realistically, Zaina could be looking at second place overall by the end of today. That's a tremendous performance by him. Two great days in the mountains. Well, the gradient not too much to worry about now. And Tonkov, almost a smile on his face there, but the gap is coming down. It's only 30 seconds, Zaina Ugrimov, and that will confirm Zaina's ascent to possibly the runner-up slot overall. Off the mountains too for the pink jersey, but off his shoulders will come the Maglia Rosa. There's no doubt about that now. He's dangling some 2.5 minutes back. Tonkov, having made the running down the descent at 10 kilometres to go, quite happy once again to sit on the back wheel of Ivan Gotti. 27 years of age, Gotti, turned professional back in 1991. And young Olano, a rider who won so well the World Road Race Championship on an enormously difficult course in Duitama in Colombia, now finding he's been pushed into the back of the Giro d'Italia by an inspired climb, largely by Gotti, but certainly Tonkov had to really suffer to hold his wheel, and he did just that. The flotilla of team cars around the Maglia Rosa and world champion. Only 5 kilometres left to go now, and Tonkov knows with every turn of those pedal revs he is going to ride back into the pink jersey. Ivan Gotti is going to climb higher up the overall classification. Tonkov, who won 3 stages in Italy of the Settimana Bergamasca this year and also a stage of the Tour of Romandy, now set to win the biggest race of his career at 27. He turned pro, in fact, a year later than Ivan Gotti. This is the face of a man who always suffers and always gets good results, Pyotr Ugrimov. Well, by his own admission, Olano says he's not a great mountain climber, but these last 2 days he's hung in there pretty well. But there was just one mountain too far. The Col de Mortarolo has cracked him. Tonkov, followed by Gotti. Inside the last couple of kilometres to the finishing line now. You can almost see the smirk on the face of Pavel Tonkov. And the gap has gone up again, so he's had a good last few kilometres. 1:08 now to the other two, and 1:55 to Olano. Olano himself is closing in, so he's not giving up at all. He's closing in, but it's not going to come soon enough to save that pink jersey. And tomorrow should be a formality for Tonkov if all goes according to plan on the road into Milan. Tonkov set now to become only the second Russian rider ever to win the Giro. Evgeny Berzin said before the start of this race that a Russian rider would win the event, but I think he was implying himself rather than Tonkov. And it's not to be. In fact, it's again with his teammate Ivan Gotti, who's had his day here today. Almost 8 hours, so they spent the best part of 15 hours cycling in the Dolomites these past 2 days in this viciously cruel tailpiece. And the man who's going to get his first ever pro win is sprinting clear. There'll be no resistance from Tonkov. He will give this to Ivan Gotti. It was Gotti's attack that did all of the damage on the climb of the Mortarolo. And now Ivan Gotti, having turned professional in 1991, gets his first ever pro win. A yellow jersey in the Tour de France by a day, now a stage winner in the Giro. A two-arm salute from him, a two-arm salute from Pavel Tonkov, who knows now, barring accidents, he has won the Giro d'Italia. This is the race for third place, Pyotr Ugrimov and Enrico Zaina. Zaina himself, if it all works out now, could be second overall tonight, and that'll give him second in Milan tomorrow. And Ugrimov, who's done so much of the work, I wonder if Zaina is going to allow Pyotr. He is. He gets the third place, almost a minute back. And then comes Zaina, and now in fifth place. And what a fight back too, because he has closed in that little bit. The pink jersey of Abraham Olano. He knows he's lost it now. Look at the gap. It really widened, in fact, over those last 3 kilometres. It's going out to 2 minutes plus. And almost 3 minutes now, so Abraham Olano has lost in a big way today in this second stage in the Dolomites, while Tonkov is watching as he crosses the line, 2:52 down and out of the top 2 certainly overall. And there we are, a no-handed ride here for Pavel Tonkov, straightens himself up for the victory. No resistance either when Ivan Gotti's gone clear. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if Tonkov hadn't have indicated to Gotti that the stage win was his a long way down the road in appreciation of what he's done today. And that's the way it works in professional racing. One guy gets the stage win, the other one gets the overall victory. 2 rivals on the day and 2 friends as well. And this is the second man getting ready for the 2-arm salute. The last time I recall this happening was in Barcelona for the Olympic Games, when the 3 medalists all did 2-arm salutes. And of course the winner then, the late Fabio Casatelli. So for the Paneria man, Pavel Tonkov, these are happy moments indeed. For Ivan Gotti, after all of those years of trying, he gets the stage win. But overall, look at this. Tonkov now leading Enrico Zaina by 2:43. Olano still hoping for a place on the podium is third. Ugrimov, 3 seconds back, is fourth. All smiles for Pavel Tonkov. He must have thought he lost it after the time trial and the day in the mountains, but he's got it back now. And so to Milano and the finish of the 79th Giro d'Italia, 176 kilometres from Sondrio, taking the riders down to Sempione Park in the heart of Milan. And no contours, of course, to worry the riders. It's all downhill now for the finishers. And as we join the action in the park, it is the final lap, and the race is more or less all together. But of course, there are those who think they can win, and they're on the attack. And one of the riders here trying to push home is Andrei Titteriuk, once a stage winner of the Kellogg's Tour of Britain in Coventry, in Great Britain. And by the way, we see Saiko here at the front, but Mario Cipollini certain not to win the stage today because he didn't start in the time trial a few days ago. He'll be off preparing now for the Tour de France, his next big event, and then the Olympic Games. His little breakaway, getting clear of the field. You can bet your life that Pavel Tonkov will have no interest in it at all. Titteriuk is in this move too, so too is Sergei Uchikov, the little Russian guy. And the Roslotto rider there is Sivakov, and the other man is Nicolas Loda. And so as they start the sprint for the line here, it looks to me as though Uchikov is going to come through in the centre of the picture. There's 5 of them in the hat for the victory. And a sprint on the right by Titteriuk. He's on our left now as you look, but it's all too late. Uchikov gets it right on the line, and he finished just in front of the Roslotto rider Sivakov, and that's the best place he's ever had in a big international stage race. And barely a few seconds have passed by, the sprint from the main field for 6th place, and it looks as though at last Adriano Baffi just getting through and getting a sprint win. Well, sort of anyway. He was 17 seconds off the pace today. Uchikov of Russia getting the victory, a stage winner. You may remember he beat Lance Armstrong last year it was, in a stage at Revel.